Joel Folda, welcome to Creator in Conversation. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you this morning?
I'm good, I'm good. Thank you for inviting me. Generally, I'm used to watch this thing from the other side of the table, and for me, it's a little bit emotional to be at the other side of the table. So thank you very much to you for inviting me. I feel great. What about you?
Absolutely, Joel. No, thank you so much. And just for our listeners as well, today's episode is really special because I wanted to really peel back the curtain on what we do here at TASQ Art, as well as highlight Joel's stellar career and his great ability as an artist. Joel has recently completed a semester teaching here at TASQ Art. So currently, Joel, and we get into your world traveling backstory, currently resides in Malta. So we have a cohort of students who study part-time and online. So Joel has been great to deliver. What was initially a six-part class, and I think we ended up expanding into nearly nine to the full 12 doing doubles because the students enjoyed it so much. They were like, "Can we go back to Joel?" I'm like, "Yes, let me ask Joel." But what's wonderful is a couple of years ago, I forget how long, because it must be nearly a decade. Yeah, it must be nearly 10 years. I was invited for the first time as a guest to Malta Comic Con, and Joel came up to me at the table. And at the time, TASC Art didn't exist. I was there in the capacity as Lightning Strike, and we had done some previous Phantom stuff. And Joel presented his portfolio. And then it was a number of years before I returned to Malta, and I was fortunate to be invited back. And when I did, Joel presented his portfolio again. And at this stage, I wasn't doing any new Phantom stuff immediately, but I had some ideas. And what was great was not the last time. So last year I was again at Malta, but the year before was when we kind of were able to go, yes, we can
It's
do something
correct.
here. Yeah,
It's correct.
and then if anyone who bought the Task Force Annual 2, the covers by Joel, Joel of his own volition reached out to me at Christmas saying, can we do this like Christmas short and put it in the newspaper? And I'm like, yeah, sure, let's just roll it. And the fans around the world went nuts. And to show you how much Joel is being taken in by the Phantom community is just before this episode, I was preparing the thumbnail and stuff, and I said I need to find a picture for Joel to go in. There's a lot of Doctor Who cosplay, which we'll probably get into that I uncovered. But as I went in to look up, the first thing when you type in Joel Folder's name now is the Phantom. It's like it's the Chronic Chain. It's like the Phantom, and I don't even get that. I'm just like, what is this? Like type in Joel Folder, and it's like the Phantom. And of course, back in February, we had produced, and it was on this very podcast as well, a motion comic to celebrate the 90th anniversary of The Phantom. And unfortunately, we really tried to get King Features to sign off on it, not even asking for payment. I'm just like, is this okay to get the rubber mark onto it, like stamp of approval? But they they just could not get any answer straight or clear from them in time, so we released it as a fan-made production. But that has done phenomenally well for us, particularly on Instagram, because it was small enough that we're able to upload the whole reel, and it's been really, really well received. And Joel basically single-handedly illustrated the entire 90 years of the Phantom's origin story, and that was insane. Because when we sit down and look at it, I think we did all of that within a month. We just sat down and we just,
Yes, I think that I worked on it within second half of December and early January. We worked on it, and me and Antonio Pirro, you and Antonio Pirro, the professional who worked on the flat color, we were doing back and forth, and every moment there was like a bit of animation. We were in this thread sharing. Oh, other 2 minutes of the thing. Oh, it's moving the ship, and we were so mesmerized because I can tell you from our point of view that we have grown not much loving the Phantom, but some of the artists behind it, and this thing got transmitted in the good vibe, in the positive vibes. So we got to love the Phantom too, and to see this thing that us imitating the people who inspired us, and then get to work on that character for a production that we considered that much important also for emotional reasons. For us was the greatest thing in the world. So we were so enthusiastic to work on it.
Oh, no, it was the best. I have to say that is among some of the most proud work I've ever got to do as well. And it was great because I also snuck in something myself and Luca Mattioni did as well. We basically threw
Yeah.
everything and the kitchen sink, even a portion of the Christmas special, because initially what we had thought of, and like we won't go too into detail into the project, but just we have spoken about it before. But the good people at Frew who've consistently been buying our books and stuff, and they even republished some of the Lightning Strike stories, I approached them with the idea of doing an original story. So I wrote up a treatment called The Phantom Dark Dynasty, and this is actually, I know, slap me on the wrist. This is years before Mad Cave even had the license. This is how long I've been working on this. But in fairness, I've set up an entire academy since then, so everyone should cut me some slack. I have a lot on my plate. But I did up a treatment and sent it to Frew, and Frew sent it to King Features and got approved. And then we were looking at different artists, and originally I think I was going to divide it up into different sections and have different artists do it. But following the collaboration between you and I, then I decided just to go straight in and just put all my eggs in the Joel Folda basket and see what happens. And it's been great. We've been making some headway on it. So with the 90th anniversary, with Dark Dynasty, we kind of go back to the origin, but we look to see, but what did the Phantom, the first Phantom and his father leave behind, and what about that unexplored branch of the family tree? So that's the treatment, and hopefully, God willing, we get it done this year. Even if it gets done this year, you probably won't see it to 2027, depending on how publishing goes. But God willing, we get it done. Um, and it's all on me, folks. It's just a lot on my plate. But as we explored it, the opening has a retelling of the origin story. So I was saying to Joe, for the 90th anniversary, wouldn't it be awesome if we just I had approached King Features and Marvel as well. Myself and Matt Sheedy of Mediafire, who used to do a lot of the editing on the podcast in season one, boosting the audio. I had basically come up with the idea of a audio description for comic books, not just the art, the text, the word balloons, but describing the page. 'Cause I said there must be an entire market of people who can't enjoy this medium the same way. So let's paint, the picture with our words. So we had taken the opening section of the Avon novels that Lee Falk wrote back in the 70s with other writers as well. And Hermes Press reprinted them, so everyone can go to Hermes Press and be able to buy these books. The entire collection's been remastered and reprinted. But we had Matt Sheedy read it, and he did all the voices because it was really only just a narrator, and then I think the Force Phantom. So he was able to really master it all. And again, we sent it to King Features try and get them say, could we do like audio adaptation? I couldn't get an answer. So I said I had this audio, and then we had um, the origin illustrated, and I was like, well, let's just overdub. And this is how simple I was thinking was let's just do like a slideshow and overdub the audio. But then we realized the transitions in between required additional and was stuff that wasn't mentioned. So then we're going in and we're like, I felt like I was putting Joel through the ringer, and then I was here. I don't smoke, but I felt like I should have had like a cigarette hanging out as I type everything together, just like cutting it like the 1920s filmmaker, just putting it all together. But somehow it just synthesized so well, and we did it like sans AI, so we're able to like do it really old school animation. And had we an entire year and maybe uh, three or four extra pair of hands in the animation, we probably could have animated it fluidly, but we just did enough just to give the simple motion. But it's so funny when you mentioned the ship because again, I didn't think I could do that, and then I figured out, and then the first version is just going across. Then I realized how to make the waves, and I was like, yes, yes, this is great. But it was a lot of fun, and it's insane because. Again, neither of us got paid anything for it. Somebody actually took the entire video and put it on your
What?
YouTube channel. Yeah, someone put the entire video on it. And I had to message them and say, look, I appreciate you probably wanting to share this, but could you at least, not take the entire video? because all we have is on our channel. And I was like, wow. Thankfully, they took it down anyway. And I was like, because if anyone's going to see it, I prefer it be on our channel. If they want to share it, we post it on Instagram and stuff. But anyone listening or watching, you can go back to the YouTube channel, see the video in full. It's only 7 minutes, but trust me, 7 minutes of animation is is a lot of work that goes into it. And if you go back to our audio listeners, you can hear the full audio tale as well. And Matt did a wonderful job onto it. But never say never. We could always go back and
Yes, of
do another
course.
one. But for now, I suppose speaking of going back, let's delve into your story, Joel. Because it's fascinating. You currently, as I said at the start of the podcast, you reside in Malta, but you're originally from Italy. So
Correct.
what was your journey then? How did you first of all get into comics? Was that back home, and how did what brings you traveling parts of the world now as well?
So, my my personal story starts with my grandma. I say that because I'm the third generation of reading comics in the family. This started with my grandma in the 60s reading issues by Fratelli Spada, who published The Phantom, Mandrake, and all of the Kingfishers production in Italy, and also produced comic books, original stories for the Italian, and then they got exported outside. And the story was that my mom used to read Superman while she was pregnant. I don't know if it means anything, but I consider it my first approach with comic book before I was born. I was born in Puglia, in Taranto. I grew up in Taranto, which is a place by absurdity full of drawers of the Phantom, like Angelo Todaro, Sal Velluto. I say hi, Sal. Um, they worked on the Phantom, and then I moved to Campania, where's Napoli, and I studied there. And because of the building environment that was the building market that was expanding in Malta, my father was called to Malta, and this was an occasion for us. So for that time, since I was studied at the Academy of Fine Arts in Naples, I did this back and forth, Malta, Napoli, Napoli, Malta, until I managed to finish my master's. And I came here because of the work of my parents, but at a certain point, I remained because I found out that Malta is some sort of Forrest Gump in the history, always in the middle of important stuff. We talk about the Battle of Poitiers, that propagandally and historically is passed as the victory of Christianity on during the Muslim invasions. Now, this is what they say on certain history books, but we shouldn't not take into consideration the Great Siege of Malta. So that's why I say that Malta is the Forrest Gump of the history. Now, I'm not taking any part in the conflict, but I'm just explaining how Malta important is. About my walkthrough as an artist, I think that I never have seen a different path for me because I started drawing before I could remember of, and I was stimulated in the house by my mother, and she was a comic book reader, and wanting or not wanting it, I was put on that path. And this requested a lot of sacrifices, but also a lot of satisfaction to see the stuff printed. I got to know the Phantom from my grandma because very banally I had them in the house. And I got to read the reprints from Wilson McCoy and Cy Berry, then to get to know Sal Velluto later during my walkthrough. He was particularly important to me to grow as an artist. I am not afraid to say that I stole a lot from his work. And he got to know that, and he, when I told him, it was like we are all midget on the shoulder of giants, so he's okay with that apparently. And I always wanted to, at a certain point, to work on the Phantom because I saw him doing it. So I wanted to go through the same path my masters went through. And I got this occasion because sometimes universe put things together, and I got to know Owen that very gently gave me the possibility to work on the character, and to he didn't slap me on the wrist in the moment I wasn't drawing the character correctly, but gave me the possibility to actually learn from my mistakes and obsessively draw it, stimulating me to continue this path until I think that I got it a little bit better. Um,
It's been very well received by the fans. Like the Phantom fans are a very supportive, connected community. Like you could be a fan in America and you could be a fan in Australia, and that's like PHAN is how they kind of spell it as like the start of the Phantom. But your style, your approach, it's such a nice touch to it because it's a synthesis of the classical, but it also has the approach of the modern. So like how the Phantom appears, it does. You can see the Barry influence, you can see the Salfaluta influence, you can see those who came before you. But the visual storytelling and the approach you take with it, though, is something which modern audiences are expecting. And like the response has been, it's been great, and it's been a pleasure to see because when I'm doing conventions, and I've been fortunate to facilitate a couple of portfolio reviews myself, the fact that I was able to, be able to offer you something and we could work together, but more importantly, you've recently expanded beyond like Light and Strike and TASQ Art. You've done the Phantom now for another company in India, so you've done it with is it Scotchy Comics,
mm.
is it? Um, but yeah, that's great that you've now. So you've been a Phantom cover artist for at least two companies now. That's and different parts of the world like India, Ireland. That's amazing. That's pretty cool that you've been able to do that. So yeah, it just goes to show. It speaks to your appeal and really again the fans are responding to. And to be honest,
Yeah,
I gave very little guidance to you as well. The only thing I ever remember was you drew the wrong Phantom ring in the first card.
but
And
that thing, but for me, that was, I think, one of the best advices. I don't want to throw mud on other professionals, but a lot of times, for favor of camera, they put the coloring when it can be viewed, and
mm,
40% of the time is on the wrong hands. And still, I get Salve in those moments. But also Salve I get it in my head. The details, the number of strips on the pants, the rings where the hands where they are, where the curve of the mask of the Phantom should almost touch the mask.
that's
All of
that's
those
really
things.
the mask is really interesting. So the very first Phantom, sorry, not the very first. So the very first thing we did was an 80th anniversary, and we packed it with people who had no prior experience before. It's meant to be a showcase. And some of them have gone on to do amazing things now. Like Keen Tormey's gone on to do Superman. You have Chris O'Harlan with Ice Cream Man. He's the colorist on that. It's just like so much. But when we did Scarlet Sapphire, which Stephen Mooney wrote and did the cover for, but Robert Carey, who's doing the Ben 10 reboot at the moment, he did the
Oh,
interiors for it.
nice.
Yeah, yeah, it's amazing. And Trina Fowler did the colors. It was a great dream team. He designed he had the Phantom's hood is kind of like an executioner's hood. It's meant to be like a skull cap, so has this little dent in. But I never realized that the mask he wears is meant to be a continuous line to tie it together. So when Carey drew it, we thought it was like, how Robin sometimes has it like the shoe gum and
Yeah.
it sticks. And King Features were like, no, no, it can't be like that. You have to connect it. I don't think we ever made the change. But what was hilarious, and it goes to show you, um, It goes to show you who knows what. The very first time I met Cy Barry and his son David at New York Comic Con years ago,
Wow.
yeah, we showed him Scarlet Sapphire and he loved it. He loved Kiri's work. He called it like a light touch. He said it was really nice. He really responded. The colors and all, it really sang to him. And I was just like, but he didn't care about the mask at all. And this goes to show if Cy Barry's like giving you the seal of approval, I don't know what really good his work. But
Uh,
it's funny. I didn't know there was a number of stripes in the underwear though. That's something because Mad Cave
yes,
abandoned it, I noticed.
it should be five.
Five. Okay.
The it should be five, and that corresponds also on the when he's drawn the emblem on the belt is five lines. Uh, the- but those are things that enter in your OCD while you start drawing the character. It's like Spider-Man, two on top, three on top, two on the bottom. They start, an editor starts looking at that. My idea would be when I do the character would be that is an old suit with a new cut.
Mm.
So an old concept in an old content, new box. So this is the way I wish my stories of the Phantom come out. I also try to put ego aside to privilege the character also because a lot of I see it a lot in the Indian fans, Pakistan fans, Punjab, and also in Australia, even though they are more open to see other versions of the character. I can see that they are taking with a lot of enthusiasm the Metcave one or some products from the Defender of the Heart. Um, Even though they continue saying the why there aren't the strips on the pants. I have my personal theory that is the Phantom taken from the Defender of the Heart. So they are trying to give continuity on that side. That's why it disappears. But what in Defender of the Heart was, I think, a stylistic choice because when they showed the Phantom in the flashbacks, he's the one, the original one. They tried to give some sort of continuity.
Mm.
I think that they kept that image of the Phantom, even to like yes, but that is the same Phantom who sometimes helps up Flash Gordon and Mandrake on Defenders of the Earth. But this is my personal theory. I never had the chance to talk to an editor of Medcave and ask them directly the questions. If they want to share this information with me, I'll be happy to get to know it about this thing of the character being like that. A lot of those people they grew up seeing reading reprints of Wilson McCoy and Cy Berry strips. In fact, also Shakti Comics reprints the strips.
Mhm.
And they want to see that Phantom. And apart from the fact that also the Phantom I grew up with was the Cy Berry one, was the Wilson McCoy, and only after I got to know the one of Salvelluto. Also, if I would like to see the Phantom the way he appeared in the past, I try to help out doing it myself also for other people who would read it. So that's the way I mean working on the character.
Oh no, absolutely. And it's been interesting here at the office. We have the brilliant poster by Jeff Weigel, who has the generations, all 21 Phantoms plus
Oh, that is nice.
yeah, plus Julie as well. It's great. And what they did recently, and this was a source of consternation for some fans. He went back and he made the previous Phantoms illustrate them to be more contemporaneous in how they were dressed. So like tricorner hats and all. And I like it. I really do like it. But then some fans were like adamant, like, no, absolutely not. It has to be consistently the hood and the mask. But what's curious about that though is I understand that because the Phantom only works if you have the impression it's the same person. It has
That
to
is the
have that.
same.
Yeah,
But why not?
but
But
you want the fun with it though, you know. I often like the Phantom too. Doctor before I really got into the Phantom law and stuff. I really likened it to Doctor Who because I was like, you can go through all the different time periods and have a different Phantom of that period, you know? So,
But even if he's even taking into consideration that is this immortal figure that lives across the years, across the centuries, like if that is those are the clothes and the technology is available at the time,
yeah,
he wouldn't go. Even though that purple suit for me will always have all the charm of the world. But I don't know. There's a comic book set during the Great Siege of Malta, and you see him just with the boats and the suit. And at a certain point, they gave him an armor.
yeah.
But also, if I'm not mistaken, but also Lee Falk when he was doing stuff with Cyberry, it took a while. It was recently quoted in Chronicle Chamber. Hi, friends of Chronicle Chamber. That they show that even at the time of Cyberry and Lee Falk collaborating on the Phantom, it was shown with other clothes. They were talking about a cowboy phantom, a phantom dressed as a cowboy. So
Yeah.
it would make sense. Uh,
Yeah, it's adaptation. I think it's as long as the way I've always approached the Phantom is there are certain fundamentals that you can't break, like not seeing the eyes. I think seeing the eyes is like Judge Dredd, like there's something that has to be
yeah.
maintained there. And but then everything else, and then sometimes I remember folks sending me scripts and it's like the ring shooting out lasers. I'm like, no, no, they're probably thinking of like the 90s film at Defenders. But once you don't go too fantastical and once you kind of ground it to a certain degree and once respect the law, everything else is just window dressing. So, it's so good.
Yes, yeah. Yes,
But
as
no,
long as he
I'll say, go ahead.
No, I was saying as long I was endorsing what you were saying, as long as certain boundaries are respected, it should be fine. At the end of the day, immortal or not, is still a man of the time he's living into.
Absolutely, no, absolutely. But yeah, no, like the Phantom's been wonderful. Like you mentioned, Chronicle Chamber there, they've always been great supporters of mine and everything I've done with Lightning Strike with the Phantom since day one. Dim and through, they've been really stellar supports, and I probably wouldn't even be still doing anything with the Phantom today if it wasn't for that support, to be honest. And they've been great with uniting the fandom. Beyond Phantom and such, what would be some of the characters you would like to go on to perhaps draw or write for someday, Joel? Do you actually do much writing yourself, or do you prefer the art to focus primarily on art?
So, I also enjoy when I have the possibility to do that, to write stories. I'll be honest, I truly wouldn't mind to not say I would like so much to do that, to write and draw a story of the Phantom myself with the tools that I have. But other character, I have in production stuff that I did myself. I have some books which are in that limbo between delivering and publishing that I did myself, and characters that I would like to work with. A character that I would have so much interest into is Mandrake, or one of the first love of my life as a comic book enjoyer, Zorro. I remember that I devoured many, many, many times the series with Duncan Dreher, the one. I hope that I pronunciated it well. The one of the 90s,
Yeah,
Zorro.
that
That
where
was my
where
first time.
Alfred was in it. The fella, the gentleman who voiced Alfred in Batman the Animated Series, Efren Zimbalist Jr. He was the father in season one. Yeah,
Um, I loved him. I loved him so much that I loved so much that series and that representation of Zorro. If the future will allow me in the future, I wouldn't mind to work on that. Or other characters. I'll be honest, at the current, apart from, but I think that is very banal to say, I would like to give my shot on Spider-Man or maybe on Superman, which were something that accompanied me so much during my walkthrough. But I would like to give my shot, my point of view of those characters without destroying the way they are. Uh, but remaining concrete, those would be the character like Zorro, Flash Gordon, Mandrake, all that roster of character created by King Features, or again Zorro. Those are the character that I would like to give my shot on. I also enjoy working on biography comic books. Sometimes I've worked on one about the director and writer Pierpaolo Pasolini. That is one of those in the limb. It has been delivered. We are waiting for the editing work and hopefully the publishing. And I have some other stuff in my mind that hopefully in the future will see the light.
Oh,
Those are
absolutely.
the main things.
And you did a, speaking of biography, you did a piece with, correct me if I'm wrong, Queen, the band Queen. I remember you showing me before. Was that?
Yes, I made a thesis. I made a thesis about that. There were some pages showing Queen in a fantasy setting. This is one of my projects. It started because it was an idea that I proposed to my master and relator of thesis, Ernesto Pugliese. And I said that I wanted to do comic book about Queen, and he was like, "Why don't you do your thesis about Queen?" And we started doing this thing. Yes, that would be a dream that would come true if I would manage to publish an actual comic book about Queen. I remember that I shown also the photo, my thesis at the Malta Comic Con to Stephen Horton, who was mesmerized by it. Steve Horton was the writer behind the graphic novel about David Bowie, a graphic novel that it was drawn by, oh, I'm gonna have to admit my ignorance, but I don't remember the name. Was the artist behind I Zombie? He's a very
Oh,
famous one. I don't remember the name at the moment, and I hope that the
seriously.
artist can forgive me. But
See if I
it
get
was
it, okay?
he
Was
also
it
did stuff
Michael
which
Allred?
yes, correct, Michael Allred.
Hmm.
And they made this comic book which is beautiful, and I do not understand why it doesn't get printed every year because it's a beautiful comic book and was the one that stimulated me to give my own shot. And my idea in the first place was to do something trying to giving my way, but pretty much based on that iconography, and then I turned it into something mine. I was so happy to tell Stephen Horton himself how much that work inspired me. And I remember that I went to Italy because I couldn't find this comic book in shops because I live in Malta. Who has two houses loses the soul, we say in Italy. And the first thing that I did when I returned to my house in Italy was to grab the comic book and put it in the bag to not forget it. And I have it in the other room in in my house. So yes,
And when you
hopefully it
said
will
you
see the light.
and when you said you did the Queen story as a thesis, was that the thesis for your master's, was it?
So it was for first for my 3 years degree, because
Hmm.
in Italy there's the 3 years degree and then there's a master. So I
Hmm.
started it as the subject of my 3 years degree, and then we agreed with my master and correlator to carry on with this subject to the masters, and it was a project in an idea. So the thesis itself was about biographies in comic books. So
Hmm.
biographies by images, and we went across the history, showing how telling the story of people are actually existed by pictures evolved across the thousands of years. And then we are like, okay, after I told you this thing, I show you my biography about Queen. And then there was a third part saying what we can do after we tell the actual story of the person. In the case of a poet or singers as Queen, we can try to expand the imaginary. And those pages of fantasy setting of Queen take their spot in that third part of my thesis. So
Very good.
Oh, it was a very interesting question because it took me 7 years to put everything together.
Oh, this is it. Yeah, it's the usually it's the journey takes longer than you might think when you put it together. Where did you study, Joe?
I studied at the Academy of Fine Arts in Naples.
Oh, amazing.
I I studied graphic art and with my master's in design of communication,
Excellent.
orientated to publishing comic books and illustration.
Oh, amazing. And how did you find the transition this year into becoming the teacher now? You were teaching the students at TASQ Art. It was interesting when I put together. So TASQ Art has just concluded its second academic year, and yeah, we'll be before we know it in September we'll be taking our third year of students. But often I would sit down and I would kind of like, okay, what are the students looking for? Where might the skill gaps be? There was a big demand for traditional and digital drawing, which we realized that that's the semantics. Once you know how to use one utensil, you can apply it to the other for the most part. But the students, as I said, absolutely adored you. And we delivered it over Zoom, and we had between yourself and the students, actually, I think we were like at one stage 3 or 4 different countries coming together, people coming in on Zoom, and it was great. Everyone was able to be very giving and collaborative. But how did you find that experience from being a student to being an artist? Because an artist can be very isolating. You're working by yourself on the page. And now you're back in the academic setting, but this time now you are the teacher. So what was that journey and experience like for you?
As the Americans say, that wasn't my first rodeo. I I always saw every time I learned from someone in the industry. Now I can quote Pino Rinaldi, I can quote Salvelluto himself. I was like, "Thank you. I will never know how to say to you thank you enough." And the reply would always be the same. You want to thank me, you want to do something for me, give it up to the next one. So I see giving back, giving back to the next one coming as the second part of my job because culture is not ours, is ours our time, is ours our material, but our competencies are not ours. I teach, I give plenty of private lessons to students of every age. I had like young children and adults. I try to help as much as possible also in for what I can do in my small experience to help. So I always saw this as part of my walkthrough, and for me to be able to actually give back, to pay back that debt to the next one was only bringing me actual joy. If I could describe it with one feeling, joy. I felt joyful. I felt complete giving it to other people, and the fact that they enjoyed so much and the fact that they were asking so much is like, what do you want to learn, what do you want to do? uh, Sometimes people also for personal fragilities, not because they want to hide, but because sometimes they might feel lost. When you're like, are you okay? There's something you didn't understand, or there's something in particular you want to learn. Students might feel a little bit lost or might not know because learning about a discipline is also learning about yourself. And because of this second part, I don't know what I need for now. That's us teachers are there. And the fact that they were asking, I want to get to know better the drapery, but I remember that a student was like, can you show me the hand and the head in perspective? This thing made my job easier, and I was feeling better than putting together a lesson and trying to understand from the other. So in this sense, they were also very collaborative. So it was
Absolutely.
for me it was natural, but it was even better because they were very collaborative.
No, absolutely. And it's so important. You raise a really important point, which is in any educational environment, regardless of the discipline, to ask a question is to participate. And it really does help the teacher guide you in any setting at any level because I remember when I began teaching at third level, there was like the, induction meetings and the training sessions and the usual formal meetings and stuff. And there was one lecturer like myself who was just starting to lecture, and she was terrified of being asked a question and not having an answer ready. And the um the host of the meeting was saying at the time, but that's not our job. Our job isn't to be like a fountain of knowledge and information. Like particularly nowadays, you have
There are books for that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like there's books, there's phone, there's Google, there's everything. But it's about how to apply, how to use it, and help to guide them. And the word, pedagogical pedagogy, that means to guide, and that's really what a teacher is. It's meant to help guide you, and that's why people would often think, and there's been a lot of discussion about, well, traditional modes of education in the physical classroom, or the tests and exams, are they going the way of the dodo? And arguably, there's a lot of 20th century thinking in 21st education that has to be rectified. But it's also really important that the formative feedback is there. That's why people always go to education. It's not really to observe someone to do something. It's not to ask questions and receive answers constantly. All of that is meaningless if there isn't a sensual, pull
Yes.
towards something. And as you said, the confidence, like confidence among an artist, particularly a burgeoning, emerging artist, is such a fragile thing. Like, because you're unsure, and to make art is a very personal, endeavor for the most part, because you're putting an element of yourself out. And people are so quick to criticize who've never produced anything in their life. But that's the nature of our businesses. We put out comic books and we try to meet a consumer, and either they like or they don't. And if they don't like it, when you're not, making sales and such. But the educational aspect, that's really what you're looking for in the 21st century, is that formative feedback, the support, and the guidance. And that's something which no advancement or change is really ever gonna replace, because that's the human spark
No.
that comes with art. To that end,
Yeah.
we recently had portfolio reviews here at the Academy. So we finished our semester just at the end of April, start of May, and May was given over to the students to produce their short story. So at the end of semester one, they produce a comic strip. At the end of semester two, they produce a short story, and we published them later in the year. And we had two editors. We had David Leach, who you met at Malta, senior editor at Titan Comics, and we had Chris Thompson, who's the managing editor at the revamped Heavy Metal magazine. And poor Chris was up to 90 because he had the Heavy Metal special coming out, and he had the latest issue of Heavy Metal coming out. And hopefully we'll get Chris on the podcast as well. We were trying to fit it all in, but he had to actually pause, take a production meeting, and come back in as well during it. But I just wanted just to talk a little bit to you about portfolio reviews, because as I mentioned, like, listeners now are probably, getting to grasps where either they've seen your work before through the Phantom 90th video, or through Task Force, or through Shakti Comics in India, or even just following you online. And I think it's fair to say, like, you're top tier. You're a very seasoned professional. You do brilliant work. But we met through you coming to me for a portfolio review. And here at TASQ Art, not just students and members are invited to portfolio reviews, but whenever we have a masterclass or an event, I invite lecturers. So when Kevin Eastman did his class, I remember inviting like Gina and Derek and the other lecturers to come to participate. So with Chris, I remember he didn't have the chance at last Malta, so we made that happen. And um, I just wonder if you could talk not around that particular experience, but just in general portfolio reviews. Like, why at this stage of your career, why do you feel it's important that you still present your work? What have you to gain? Someone who's already been published, what have you to gain from the experience? And what would you advise to people when, because no two portfolio reviews are the same. It's like snowflakes. Like what one editor says, the other could say
No.
the opposite. So what would you say
No.
then to someone like who may be preparing for the first portfolio review, or are feeling a bit beaten down about portfolio reviews? I wonder why bother doing portfolio reviews? Like, what's your philosophy or thoughts around that?
So, if it is about technical stuff, if it is about technical stuff, the story is always the same. Show sequence, I would avoid, but I would completely leave out standalone illustration. I don't know. If you're going to publisher X, you show, and it's like I'm preparing the portfolio because I want to enter in that publisher, to be taken at that publisher. You prepare stuff concerning that particular publisher. I will never show stuff that is not made for that purpose if my idea is to apply for a job in that particular company. But this is pretty much common knowledge. Um, about the approach someone should have a portfolio review. First of all, know that you are doing. This might sound a bit, a reduction of what you're doing. Just know, first of all, that you're doing the best that you can with the tools that you have. Even if you are 90 years old, there's always room for improvement. And this I learned from very elder artists around the world. Uh, be propositive. So I'm going there. You can learn a lot from failing. If they get you first attempt, good for you. But passing, but always passing, always getting a yes doesn't teach you much. While sometimes receiving a no can give you a lot. Doesn't mean that if you manage to do it first try, it means that you fit in a certain environment. I get my exam. I get the example of myself. If I need to apply for a certain type of comic book, they will tell me that I'm old-fashioned. While when I work on the Phantom, since there's a certain type of approach, they tell me that I fit perfectly.
Mhm.
So uh, if it is that's the for me that's the approach. Know where you are, and don't be afraid to receive a no. And third, unless is a very particular case. The person who's looking at your portfolio is someone who took some time from his schedule to talk to you. Sometimes they might be very busy, but then they return, but they find some time to talk to you, and this is precious. About Chris Thompson himself. I remember that last year at Malta Comic Con, I came on the Saturday asking him for a portfolio review and was like, I cannot today. If you pass tomorrow, I will be pleased to assist with that. I went the Sunday and he took some time. All of this long say to tell that these people are actually finding time to look at your stuff. And unless there are very particular situation, it will always be like that. So the editor, the person who looks at it, is by your same side. Don't you think that if the editor was looking at the portfolio, even more if they created portfolio review for scouting, they don't want to get as many artists as possible because they need to sort out problems. Like I need artists to deliver the job done. So there's reason always behind. So always be propositive. The editor is your friend. Most of the times is someone who did a lot of portfolio review receiving a no, so doesn't want to give you a no, but sometimes, most of the times, is forced to.
Mhm.
And it's not about how good you are, but if you can fit in that particular environment, unless you are a very early stage of your walkthrough. And about me, why I continue doing a portfolio review uh, as someone submitting it, I think that explained it personally. Okay to get more work, but this is only the second part. The first thing is to encounter other opinion and understand more what is happening around me and get occasions to improve or to hear advices. Then the advices you can either take them, not take them. This is completely up to you. Sorry for the long say, but
No, this is
I
amazing. No, that's like you've really approached, tackled, and addressed several, difficult points that many people grapple with, both even editors and teachers themselves and talking about it, but even just those listening who might be ramping up or preparing for portfolio reviews. Like it's great to hear from yourself as well as an artist, as a practicing professional, because our industry is one where it's good to have a certain amount of ego. Everyone kind of needs that 'cause you take pride in your work and to build confidence and to push yourself. But at the same time, you can't be too, you can't be too, precious around said ego because that
you
will
know who I
restrict
am.
you. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's important to like learn and restrict. And as I said, like no two reviews will probably be the same. You might think then, but then what's causing that discord then within industry? But really, you have to remember there are editors for different companies, for different marketplaces, for different audiences, for different criteria. It's very similar in the general sense. There are certain beats, universal. Like you hit upon them, like having the sequentials, having your most recent work, et cetera, et cetera. All that is there. But when it gets down to it, like an editor, depending on the project, will have particular. They're looking for something in particular because that's assigned to what they do. And yeah, and it's been funny because even in my own career, I was saying. I found your Doctor Who pictures early on,
Oh,
like and like I was a big fan of like Doctor Who and did like a pitch, speculative. So a spec story is something you do where you're not asked and you present it, and this company or studio is not obligated in any way. They might not even look at it for legal reasons because they might not want to see anything. But we did a two-pager, and Oisin Roach did the illustration with Peter Capaldi. And really, I was like, this is too good for a no. They gave me a no. And I was like, okay. But even then, you just learn and you understand from it. Looking back on it, I see, even though the artwork's beautiful, I see many, many mistakes in terms of panel placement and pacing and stuff. So there's always something to learn from that experience as well and to build upon it. So the no isn't the end. The no is just giving you the
no.
point to the next step, That's the important thing.
A lot of collaborations that I have today, they started with a no.
Mhm.
A no, unless you do very severe things, it's like unless you offend someone, a no doesn't mean you are not good. Uh, a no doesn't mean that in general, but it means you are not what we are looking for today
Mhm.
even at early stage. Now, let's imagine that I started drawing today and I go to a portfolio review at Malta Comic Con with an experience of Malta Comic Con is in October, now we are in June. It's like with roughly 4 months of comic book experience. And the editor, even with all the rights of the world, blasts me, saying, no, this doesn't work, that doesn't work. Doesn't mean that I'm not good. It
Mm.
means that is not the time yet, and is not I'm not what they are looking for today. That's
Yeah.
the thing. While a lot of artists, but also a lot of writers, when they do reviews with editor, and the editor says, "No, it's not stuff for you today," they take it personally. It's like a rejection from a job application, eh? It's like you don't take it personally. You are not what the company is looking for today. Uh, I don't know. I remember that I have started my journey as I wanted to start in a publisher in Italy as drawer. They told me no. 4 years later, they got me as colorist, and that was the way I started my walkthrough in comic books or other stuff that was rejected previously. Then found its space of existence later because they were I remember about that guy. I remember that he was doing this. Let's give him another shot. Generally, editors, unless they are very uh, constricted environments, have a portfolio review. I have a limited amount of slots. Even more, if they remember about you, they will be happy to have a look. and to tell you, you are doing well. It's the same thing that happened to me with David Leitch. Last year, he said that I was actually doing some good stuff in the portfolio. But the year before, he addressed a lot of strong issue not being sweet with me. Not to say that David Leitch is rude, but he told me stuff for the way it is. And most probably he knows, but I want to create drama saying he doesn't know how much he helped me. He knows, he knows. He knows how much he helped me, being straightforward.
And honestly, the follow-up is really important as you're describing there. Like
Yes.
when you do it, there's nothing better than when you present something one year and it doesn't go the direction you want, and then a year or two later there's a follow-up, and then suddenly you forge the connection. You can see the improvement. That's very rewarding into itself, and it's often like I think to reiterate what you were saying earlier, having a failure early on in your career, like being told no a lot, is far better than having it happen later. Because, like, imagine if you have just a lucky break where you're just presenting at the right moment and you get yes, 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 yes. Imagine what that does to you, that when you're at the pinnacle, then you're told no. It's such a steep fall, but it's much better to climb up than to start and just go a shot down.
I
You kind
think
of want to build, you know?
I think that somewhere it will happen anyway.
Hmm.
Now I talk from the point of view of someone coming from a country where comic books are meant in a certain way, and a lot of comic books who have worked for big publishers in Italy that then wants to approach the US market is something that is going to be very destabilizing, because imagine that you have worked 20 years for a publisher in Italy, and apart from small stuff, no one ever actually told you stuff. Now I'm trying to be very general because the walkthrough of each artist is very different.
Hmm.
Um, and then you try to do the climb in the US, and they are like, no, for me those pages are too static, they are too old-fashioned. Doesn't mean that you are a bad art. You're gonna get
Yeah.
the wrong the same, you're gonna crash the wall the same, but you still need to remain in that mindset that is not what they are looking for. Is not that you are not good.
Mm.
That's the I will never press enough on this thing, because otherwise we enter in this thing that comes from is this validation seeking. Am I good? Am I a good boy? Am I a good person? That socially we are forced to have. But it's not that you are not good. At least for having such a job, you're not killing anyone. Uh, it's not that you're not good. You are not what they are looking for in that moment. But maybe the market changes and you become what they are craving, what they are truly looking for. It's not up to you and doesn't define you. Now,
Absolutely.
this is not for me to spread positivity. I think that I'm very straightforward.
No, absolutely. Like, and again, it's an art, not a science, you know. So like, it's all experiential, and as it should be, because how bland and boring would it be if everyone just did the exact same? Like,
Yeah.
there wouldn't be an industry to uphold anything because one would be just the same as the other. It's having that uniqueness within it. Joel, this has been fantastic. I asked for 30 minutes of your time. I think I took twice as much. So,
No, for
uh,
me it's a pleasure.
but just before we wrap things up, for those listening and watching, if they would like to connect or follow your work, where would be the best channels or ways to find you?
So I think that I'm very active on Facebook and Instagram. There are also my main working contacts there. So I will always be pleased to have a chitty chat or to reply to a question. Never stand back about this guy. I never stand back behind. So those are the best way to contact me. Of course, always at disposal for what I can do.
Amazing. Well, Joel, thank you so much for your time. This has been a pleasure to speak with you. And again, as I was teasing, hopefully you and I will have some more stuff in the hopefully near future to present to the world as well. And I wish you all the best in all your future projects. Thank
Thank
you.
you. And you, thank you.